Well, the game is finally here. After many years of abandonment, the Silent Hill series has finally made a proper comeback. Not only with a fantastic remake, but also a brand new entry. And I think there was something before that, but I can't remember. Silent Hill F was set out to be the most different yet. Instead of the usual setting in America, this one is set in Japan. It has been such a long wait, but it's finally here, and I can safely say this game fucking rocks. It absolutely delivers. Now for this video, I will not spoil the story since it is such a new game, so just like I did with the Silent Hill 2 remake video, I'll keep it as spoiler free as possible, so for those who want to still hear my take on it but still want to try the game later on, you can still watch it. Without further ado, let's get into the game. The game opens up with a girl playing with her doll. The other girls don't want to play with her as they think she's too boyish. We then cut 2 years later with our main protagonist sitting for herself when her sister Junko arrives. She gives Junko a little bell as a gift and they share a pretty nice moment. The next scene however is not as pleasant as Hineko's dad yells at her. He is mad cause Hineko can never listen to him, wishing she was more like her sister Junko. Having had enough, she walks out of the house. In the village she lives in, she finds a couple of her friends hanging around in the area, but she notices it's very empty. Where are the rest of the people? But then a monster in the fog arrives and they had to run away. Himiko does get separate from the others, and now a new threat is haunting this town and awakening monsters around every corner. All Himiko can do now is to grab a weapon and find out what is going around this place. The atmosphere of this place is so good. I love the way the village looks and the environments looks great. It's so eerie and atmospheric, and the soundtrack here perfectly nails the mood. This goes for pretty much all the areas in the game, like the middle school, up in the mountains, or outside the village. This game as a whole has a fantastic atmosphere, feeling like you're never truly alone. That something is always around the corner, and often there actually is something there. This definitely feels like a Silent Hill game in its core, just with a different coat of paint. And the same can be said for the combat. While it does have its own flair, it still feels right at home with the series. What I mean by that is that it still feels like you're playing as someone who is not a trained soldier or has any combat experience. Your attacks are sluggish, you're not fast, and the stamina and health bar is pretty small, and so on. It makes the fights much more intense and realistic. They did, however, make some few changes. Now, sometimes when an enemy is about to do a heavy attack, if you perfectly dodge it, you'll get your stamina fully back, or fully counterattack it to do a lot of damage. This can be amazing, as if you have low stamina but manage to dodge it, you can fill up again and attack the enemy more. Without stamina you can't attack, so it can be really helpful to do this maneuver. But it's also not an easy thing to do, so it gives this high risk reward feeling that I think works wonderfully. You can also attack the enemy right before a heavy attack to stun it for a bit. This is also very helpful, as enemies do have that one attack that they can grab you and will do damage to you in a small cutscene. This is why it's important to always have some stamina when fighting enemies. One thing to note too is that if you're completely empty of stamina, Himiko can't even move, so it's always good to have some left. Plus, when you do have some left, it actually fills the stamina bar faster, just to keep in mind. The way the weapons work and what type of weapons you can unlock is also different. This time around there are no guns to be found, only melee weapons. But when using the melee weapon for some time, it will start to break. So unless you can find a toolkit to fix the weapon to use it more, it will be destroyed forever. I wasn't really sure what to think about this mechanic in the beginning, as I didn't really think a Silent Hill game would have something like this, but I think they actually did a pretty good job implementing it here. There are many melee weapons to find in the game, whether it's light or heavy. I never once ran completely out of melee weapons and always managed to find more. I do think this mechanic makes it more tense when fighting an enemy, and in the middle of combat the weapon breaks and you just go, oh fuck. And it especially feels bad when it is a melee weapon you really like. For me, it was the axe. I tried to have it as long as possible, but unfortunately it did break and I was pretty sad about it. That was until I found another one and I was pretty happy. Outside of health as well, there's also the sanity meter to worry about. If the sanity meter goes all the way down, you will lose health. Now luckily there are several items to help you along the way, either to give you health or stamina, but your inventory is limited. You will at some points in the game manage to upgrade the inventory space to hold more items, but even then it's still pretty limited, so you'll sometimes be in situations where you have to leave an item behind, or you can enshrine it. During these save points, you can enshrine to get fate points. These fate points are either used to upgrade one of Hinako's stats, health, her stamina, and also her sanity. Or you can draw a little block that can give her a buff. You can only equip one of these at a time at first, but you can upgrade this stat so you can equip more. So if you are struggling in the game, try and upgrade Hinako's more and she will take on fights much better. And being a proper Silent Hill game, you can also do different difficulties for both puzzles and combat separately. I always love the fact you can choose between both, as not everyone wants to have a hard time solving puzzles or having a hard time fighting enemies. I never understood why at some point in the series they just stopped doing it, until it luckily came back. Now speaking of puzzles, they did such a fantastic job, dude. Like, oh my god. The game absolutely nailed it. These are actually really good puzzles. There were several times I was scratching my head trying to find a solution, and when I finally got it, I felt like a genius. A great example of this is the cornfield. There is fog all around you, and whenever you're trying to run away, it will just spawn back to where you started. You will stumble upon a bunch of scarecrows. There's a riddle to solve on how to find out who the correct scarecrow is, and by doing this, they will show you the correct way to go. Choose wrong and one of them will come alive and try and attack you and kill you. They were so cool. I was honestly blown away by them. This was such a fantastic puzzle and had me thinking a lot. But when it did solve them without making any of the scarecrows move, oh, I felt so awesome. The puzzles were challenging, but solving them was so satisfying. The puzzles were done so well and I could not be happier about it. While this game does a lot of similar mechanics like the other game series, it also does a lot of things new. The first obvious thing being its setting. Instead of modern day America, it's in 1960s Japan. Personally, I think this was a great idea and made the game feel a lot more fresh. The look and atmosphere here are unlike any of the other games and it's so cool. And the graphics, dude, oh my god, it looks stellar. The detail and environments and the character models all look fantastic. This game's art style is immaculate. I love the use of red flowers and blood as a great contrast from the grey and dark look of the town. There is also a sunset happening later on in the game and damn dude, it's just amazing. And the monsters too, they all look wonderful, all having unique and creepy design. They all look amazing. And the bosses, dude, oh my god, they were so fantastic. I loved every single one, not only from the story perspective, but the fights were so tense and fun. They also all just looked visually amazing. They nailed so much with this game and the bosses were no exception. And poor Hinako has to fight and survive them all. Now speaking of Hinako, I don't think I've ever felt this bad for a character in a long time. The things this woman goes through is insanely dark and hard to watch at times. You really do feel so bad for her. This is a true psychological horror through and through. The story does not shy away from its topics and its themes. I think it was done amazingly well and the story had me intrigued all the way to the end. It's always had me going, what is going on, and I need to find out more now. The characters also were really interesting, such as Hinako's friends, most present being Chu, who despite having a bat on him, never ever helps Hinako fight anything at all. He instead just disappears out of nowhere. Well, to be fair, almost everyone does it so. But the other character I found very interesting was the guy with the white fox mask. There was just so much mystery surrounding him, who he was, what his deal was and such. He only appears in this weird otherworldly place that's different from the normal world. You'll go back and forth into the real world and this place during different points of the story. I was a bit worried at first when seeing this, as I thought it would turn out like Outlast 2, where you shifted from the village and the school, which ended up making the game much more confusing and less focused. Thankfully though, Silent Hill F does not fall into that and instead keeps it interesting throughout. Even give me Himiko a wolf arm. This arm rocks and dealing with enemies is just easy with it. Plus you can build up a bar when unleashing makes your arm bigger and much stronger, making you feel like a god. I'm telling you, this game never gets boring. And the soundtrack is also just fantastic in this game. Akira Yamaoka returns to compose for this game, being the composer for many of the Silent Hill games before, having created so many incredible soundtracks. But alongside him, Kensuke Nage is here as well. Another fantastic composer who's created some beautiful soundtracks for other series. With both of their powers combined, they have made a soundtrack that will stay in my mind forever. The game contains both terrifying beats to create an intense atmosphere, or more beautiful and relaxing tracks to help you take a bit of breather every now and then. I also love the opening credits theme. I don't know how to describe it, but I really nailed making it both calm but also eerie. And the tracks that plays during the endings, they were so good. The soundtrack did not disappoint at all, and it really elevated the experience as a whole. And the way they handle the endings too is so cool, and something I hope to do for the next game as well. This game has multiple endings that are all part to unravel the story more as a whole. Plus when you play on New Game Plus, some cutscenes will be different with different dialogue to again give much more context to the story, giving certain characters a lot more depth. It is probably the only game in a long time I just immediately went to replaying again. It gives a proper reason as to why to do so, and I'm really glad for that. This game is absolutely amazing and fantastic all the way through, but there is one thing I really wish they were a bit better at. This game was not scary at all. Like, I did not feel a single time scared playing this. For all the amazing things the game does, I just don't find it scary. Which is weird because everyone else I talked to found it terrifying, so maybe I'm just really hard to scare. But despite that though, it doesn't really bother me because I still thought the game was absolutely fantastic from beginning to end. Silent Hill F is a masterclass of a game. It managed to make the combat still feel tense, the game as a whole looks incredible, the story had me engaged all the way through. The characters were interesting and the atmosphere was done so well. This will go down for me as one of the best Silent Hill games ever made. I would say it will be my game of the year, but sorry Hinako, but a certain Kong has that spot for me. I hope it did get some of you interested who haven't played the game, because I'm telling you, you do not need to play any of the previous games to play this one. This game is fantastic all the way through. With all that being said, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.